Beneath the warm Florida sun and amid the sound of gentle waves lapping against luxury yachts, the sect's highest-paid football coaches gathered for their annual spring meetings. But while the rest of the college football world wrestles with existential threats and structural chaos, these titans of the gridiron are zeroed in on a problem that, at least in their world, might as well be DEFCON 1. How to manage a roster of 85 scholarship players and a few walk-ons. Yes, while universities, administrators, and fans grapple with the unpredictable future of college athletics, ranging from mass conference realignments and nil disputes to federal intervention and potential athlete unionization, the elite coaching class of the Southeastern Conference is worried about losing a second or third string long snapper. If I lose 2 long snappers, where do I get my third one? Texas A&M head coach Mike Elko asked earnestly, highlighting the very real logistical nightmare, in his eyes, of maintaining roster integrity amid the new age of the transfer portal, nil deals, and shifting scholarship rules. Meanwhile, across the lush, palm-lined resort, topics like media rights upheaval, athlete compensation frameworks, and even the long-term viability of non-revenue sports are being whispered in hallways and private dinners. But those don't appear to be on the coach's agenda. Instead, these spring meetings are consumed by discussions about roster size, depth chart management, and the impossible task of keeping third-team special teams players happy enough not to jump ship to another program for a few thousand more nil dollars. A different world on the water. This juxtaposition, coaches aboard yachts, figuratively and literally, while college football fights to avoid sinking, has not gone unnoticed. It's a fitting metaphor. The wealthiest and most powerful figures in the sport are seemingly protected from the crashing waves of change. They are concerned, yes, but about how to maintain competitive balance in their locker rooms, not how to sustain the sport as a whole. College football is undergoing the most radical transformation in its modern history. Once rooted in tradition, regional identity, and amateurism, it is now a landscape defined by million-dollar endorsement deals, cross-country conference affiliations, and a growing chorus of voices demanding that athletes be treated and compensated as professionals. But within the SEC bubble, where winning is everything and job security is fleeting, coaches see the sport's transformation through a much narrower lens. Their survival depends on recruiting, retaining, and winning. And that means focusing on managing their rosters down to the very last player. You're expected to compete for a national championship every year, one coach said. You can't do that if you're scrambling mid-season to find a backup punter because 2 guys hit the portal. Missing the forest for the trees? To be fair, these coaches didn't create the chaos engulfing the sport. But they're also not exactly stepping up to help fix it. The NCAA has all but relinquished its control. University presidents have delegated power to athletic departments. Conference commissioners are struggling to hold the old model together while appeasing television networks and billionaire boosters. And Congress, despite repeated calls for legislation to govern nil and athlete rights, remains gridlocked. In this leadership vacuum, coaches could emerge as influential voices to advocate for reform that balances athlete empowerment with sustainability. But that's not happening here in Miramar Beach. Instead, it's a kind of tone-deaf theater, a room full of millionaires lamenting the loss of control over their depth charts while the foundations of the sport crumble around them. The bottom-line college football fans, already disoriented by teams jumping from coast to coast in new superconferences, now have to watch the sport's most visible leaders focus on minutiae. While administrators quietly stress over antitrust lawsuits, nil collectives spiraling out of control, and a potential players' union, SEC coaches are debating